I'm sure many of you woke up this morning and wondered, what bizarro world are we living in? It's very clear that what happened last night was a referendum on the president. People turned out in droves to give him 4 more years, but the minority, over on the left, was just waiting to see how much they had to cheat by. It's that simple. They're playing a giant game of Calvin ball, and the three referees are Governors Whitmer, Wolf, and Evers. Now, strangely enough, this is a video I did 30 April 2020, and this was an image that I created just for that video. Now, I did think that Governor Cooper in North Carolina was going to be part of this, but 3 out of 4 ain't bad. You see, here's what they think. They think you're bad at math. They think that you can't do basic multiplication and division. Because what's being claimed now in Wisconsin and in Michigan is that they have had nearly a 100% turnout of their registered voters. You see, they don't have more votes than they have registered voters. That was going around for a while. That's wrong. But what they are claiming is this, especially in Michigan. They're claiming that their vote totals, if you add up how many people voted for Trump and how many people voted for Biden, that it is 95, 98% of their total registered voters. You see, here in Florida, even though we had more people vote in total, more people actually registered to vote now than in 2016. So the actual percentage stayed the same, around 75 to 78%, which is really good. Now, if you don't think this is the case, if you think I'm just making this up about Wolf, Whitmer, and Evers, check this out. 1 second. This is from 3 days ago on CNN. Now, of course, for copyright reasons, I can't actually play it. But they had a 4-way split screen with Jake Tapper, Governor Whitmer, Governor Wolf, and Governor Evers. Now, once again, 30 April 2020, and I'll give you the link to all of this, and you can read and watch for yourself. The title of this video? President Joe Biden will have these governors to thank for installing him as the 46th leader of the United States of America. This was 30 April 2020, this channel. That this is what was going to happen. I'm sure many of you are familiar with this map ad nauseum from Vox. They've just, of course, thrown Wisconsin now, confirmed, supposedly, into the column for Joe Biden, leaving Michigan and Nevada outstanding. And they've just actually adjusted the total. So if you add Michigan and Nevada, 16, 6, 22, he gets to exactly 270. Imagine that. And of course, that's as a result of splitting Nebraska and splitting Maine and all these other nonsense. So it makes Pennsylvania, North Carolina, and Georgia irrelevant. You see, all of this is Calvin ball. All of this is Calvin ball. You know why? Because there's nothing in the Constitution about what the results of a popular election should or should not decide. See, we're a long way from 20 December. We are a long way from 20 December. The only thing that happens in states when they conduct elections are suggestions. The only thing that happens in states when they conduct elections are suggestions. There's nothing in the Constitution that requires a state to even conduct an election to send electors. Let me say that again. There is nothing in the Constitution that requires a state to even poll its people to be able to participate in the Electoral College meeting 20 December. Now, strangely enough, this was the topic of the very first video I ever did on YouTube ever, 28 October 2016. You can go look it up on my video page. The legislature of the state can determine electors by whatever means it wants to. And if it violates its own state law in the process, that's an internal matter for the state. If it violates its own state law in the process, that's only an internal matter for the state. Now, for this to be exactly 270, exactly, Nevada and Michigan outstanding, leaves open the door for our good friend, the faithless elector. It'll only take one. It'll only take one in any blue state anywhere. They don't have to vote for Trump. They just have to not vote for Biden. They don't have to vote for Trump. They just have to not vote for Biden. And that would drop him to 269. It would get him under the 50%. And, as it says here, each state shall appoint in such manner as the legislature thereof may direct. As the legislature thereof may direct a number of electors, equal to the whole number of senators and representatives to each state made entitled in the Congress. Okay, that's it. It doesn't say conduct an election. It doesn't say canvass your people. It doesn't say see who everybody wants to be president. And they go to a meeting. And that meeting, the people, the electors that go to that meeting have to be certified 1 week prior to the 20th, which is the 13th, I believe, of December. It's Calvin Ball. You see, this is where it gets a little bit weedy for conservatives. You see, regardless of whether Trump would end up in the Oval Office or Biden would end up in the Oval Office, not a damn thing is changing in Florida. Not a damn thing. There will be no mask mandates, no governmental mask mandates. All of the kids will be in school. And if Biden wants to try to challenge the state of Florida on that, I welcome him to try. You see, each state, this is why I've said, if you don't like where you're living, move to Florida. Move to a red state. Go where you're celebrated, not where you're tolerated. And if the governance in Michigan wants to cheat, if the governance in Wisconsin wants to cheat, I could take you through all of the numbers, all of the historical numbers of what happened in 2016 and how it's virtually impossible for them to have the numbers that they are reporting. It's virtually impossible for them to have the numbers they're reporting. But it's all irrelevant because the results of these elections have no constitutional weight whatsoever. It's up to each state. Just like in Florida, we spoke, and we spoke loudly. Trump won by 380,000 votes. Trump only beat Hillary by 113,000 votes. And while the numbers have gone up, the percentages, not of the victory, but the percentages when you take people registered to vote as the big number on the bottom of the fraction, and then you put the people who actually voted, total for both people, Biden and Trump, as the top part of the fraction, whether you look at it in 2016 or you look at it in 2020, 75 to 78%. It's roughly the same. Few more as a percentage voted this time, but it's about the same. Not so in Michigan. Not so in Wisconsin. They are alleging a voter turnout that is virtually impossible. They're talking like 98, 99%. And some of these, like Wisconsin's only reporting 95% in. Michigan 96% in. And there they're talking about a difference of about 30,000 votes. Which will make, of course, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, and Georgia irrelevant. This is what they're doing. It's Calvin ball. It's nothing but Calvin ball. And I hate to say it, but we called it a long time ago. That if Biden wins, this is who he'll have to thank. This is who he will have to thank. These three people here, upper right, lower left, specifically. And if you think I'm kidding, here's Jake Tapper with those three people, those of all the liberals that he could have gotten on to interview 3 days ago. This says 2 days ago, but that's because, well, what they're saying here is that they're 2 days away from election. So this was the first. I'll give you the link to this. It's a CNN.com videos, politics 2020, 11-1, Whitmer, Wolf, Evers, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Michigan, election voting, Sotu, Tapper, blah, 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 blah. I'll give you the link. It's not hard to find. So they knew what they were doing. They knew exactly what they were doing. They were waiting and figuring out that you couldn't do math, or they didn't think you could do math. And they were just going to create an electoral college game of Calvin ball. Let's just manipulate the rules as we go. Because truthfully, in our state, meaning whichever governor you want to, we can do whatever the hell we want to do. And constitutionally, there's nothing that can happen. Now, legally, within the state, all sorts of things can happen. But what do we know? Remember last election? Remember the faithless electors, the ones that didn't vote for Hillary? Those votes stood. Those votes stood. It was ruled that electors can do whatever they want. How those electors are chosen is entirely up to the state. But once they're chosen and they go vote, there's nothing the rest of us can do about it. It's going to be a weird thing this time that you might see conservatives bitching about the Electoral College and how it's decided. There's a thing out there called the National Popular Vote Interstate Compact, and it's all blue states. Virtually all blue states, except for South Carolina and Ohio. They haven't ratified it yet, but the ones who've ratified it, meaning that it doesn't matter what the outcome of their state voting is, they're going to send their electors to vote for whoever won the national popular vote. And those states, they're all up east and on the West Coast. California, Oregon, Washington, Colorado, New Mexico, Illinois, Maryland, Delaware, New Jersey, New York, Vermont, Massachusetts. I don't know why I'm trying to stare at the map. They have the list down here. Maryland, New Jersey, Illinois, Hawaii, Washington, Massachusetts, D.C., Vermont, California, Rhode Island, New York, Connecticut, Colorado, Delaware, New Mexico, and Oregon have all signed this, that they have disenfranchised, essentially, their own people. So if you're living any one of these places, I'm sure you didn't know this, that it doesn't matter. That it doesn't matter what the results of the voting in your state are. They're going to cast the Electoral College votes for whoever wins the popular vote. They're going to cast their Electoral College votes for whoever wins the popular vote. And once again, nothing unconstitutional about it. Why? What those electors do is up to those electors. How those electors are chosen are up to the states. That's why I live in Florida. This is why I've said, get out of those states. Get out of those states. Reduce their population so that these numbers continue to go down meaning their total electoral representation, and they become less and less and less relevant. Right now, their only path requires them to cheat, and it only gets them right to the exact limit of 270. Next time, Minnesota, Wisconsin, they're not going to have 10 votes each. They won't be able to do this next time. New York's not going to have 29 votes. Florida is going to have 31. Texas is going to have 41. Georgia's going to have more. South Carolina's going to have more. That's why it was so desperate for them this time to cheat. This is the last time they're going to be able to do this. Because they only have so many states in which they can cheat like this. So, anyway, I will leave it there, and I'm sure this will cause a great deal of commenting and conversation down in the comment section, but do understand, we have 51 individual little contests all going on. And then the results of those contests, they might mean something, they might not. Welcome to the Electoral College. Like, share, subscribe.